Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and welcome to another edition of The Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai. So how do we understand miracles better? Well, how do we tell what's truly from God? So many questions all about miracles, and we've got Debbie and Adam to go through it. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you so much for having us on The Next Right Thing. And yeah, we're talking about miracles. How do you separate the authentic from the counterfeit? And Adam, you know this very well because you wrote a book years ago, and it's one of my favorite books. It's called The Catholic Guide to Miracles, and it can be found, folks, at EWTNRC.com. That's the religious catalog. But Adam, what made you write the book about trying to explain to all of us, the readers, how to figure out when we're viewing something, understanding something, even experiencing something, if it is indeed authentic or if it's a fake?
Well, Deb, it started with when I learned how the church judges miracles for sainthood cases. So when somebody's being considered for sainthood, and on that journey, you know, there has to be a miracle attributed to their intercession, and then usually a second miracle before the church will consider declaring them a saint formally and canonizing them, and then, you know, globally the person can be venerated as a saint. You know, when I learned about that whole process for the first time many years ago and then got into the details, I found it a fascinating study on actually reason, you know, the application of our reason, of our mind. Because the church, you know, had this challenge centuries ago of how do we, like, confidently say somebody's a saint? Like, you could say, well, they lived a great life, and these people said they were really nice, and, you know,
they did holy things. They were at church every single day. Yeah.
Right. There's all these, you know, stories from their peers that they were a great person. But the church said, like, in order to, like, definitively do this, we need to have actual miracles as a proof that they are in the beatific vision in heaven, and they have a special ability to intercede to God and basically ask God to do something extraordinary. And what was that extraordinary thing? The church, again, centuries ago, figured out that these miracles had to meet quite a high bar. And that was, and by the way, they figured out that healings were the best type of miracle, right? So why? Because it can be objectively measured.
And you can track it, right?
You can track it. And so they figured out the criteria had to be somebody had to be healed of a problem, a medical problem, a real medical problem that exists, not just them saying something like, you know, they're in the hospital, they've done a CAT scan. Obviously, they didn't have CAT scans back then. But, you know, they're clearly dying or they have a serious issue. And they said it has to be instantaneous, all at once, not, oh, I got better over 6 months. It has to be instantaneous. It has to be complete. It has to be lasting. And the doctors have to say, in their, you know, outside medical opinion, not church doctors, secular outside doctors have to say, we cannot explain this. There's no reason this should happen. And those were the 4 criteria. And I just found that fascinating because the gospel's filled with all these healings that Jesus did. And it was used as proofs to the people at the time, one of the proofs, not the only, that he was divine.
Right. Okay. So Jesus performed these miracles, okay, and these healings took place. But there were witnesses there that saw Jesus either look at that person, touch that person, pray over that person, do something, and you could connect it. What fascinates me about what you just said is, yes, I mean, believe me, I'm not criticizing or judging this, but it always just makes me think about this. You have a person that goes to the tomb of a saint. They're praying to that saint, and then they are healed. How do we know that they didn't pray to another saint? You know, I mean, oftentimes we as Catholics, we pray to a whole family of saints and angels and so, I mean, it always fascinates me when they say, well, I went to this saint's tomb and all of a sudden I was healed. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you're just saying that. I mean, how do I know what really you prayed for? So I'm just curious as how they figure out that it exactly is attributed to that particular saint.
Yeah, so When somebody's cause is up for either beatification or canonization, beatification is kind of the step before canonization, there is always a promotion of that to let people know in the world, that this person's cause is being considered and that they're looking for miracles. And so people that, maybe feel an affinity towards that person and, hope they're a saint or read their story and trust that they're a saint, they will specifically pray to them. There's often, something like taking a holy card of that particular saint or a relic of that saint, though the first class are not available until they're actually declared saints usually, except people that just personally knew them might like have a hair or something like that. But so basically they call for people to very specifically just pray to that saint so that when they give their testimony, they can say, like, I specifically only prayed to this saint because I was hoping the miracle would happen to help their cause.
Okay, that makes sense. So when you were doing this book, in this book by Sophia Institute Press, it's called The Catholic Guide to Miracles, Separating the Authentic from the Counterfeit. And Adam, you wrote this book in 2021, so about 4 years ago. It's a fabulous book. It's on EWTN Religious Catalog. So EWTNRC.com is the way you can pick up the book. I actually have 2 copies, one signed, one not signed, so I can give one away. I love the book. But in the book, Adam, you talk about these healings. So those are miracles, and that's what the church uses to really move that holy man or woman along the road to full canonization. But you also get into apparitions, you get into Eucharistic miracles, a modern day stigmata, near-death experiences, heavenly near-death experiences, angelic apparitions, and other events. Okay, and I really want to know this. What prompted you to go into all these other areas? Are you sensing or are you noticing in the line of work that you're doing in the Diocese of Pittsburgh or in your exorcism work? Are you noticing that people are just accepting miracles too easily, not enough? Where are we at? Because I personally think that we don't accept enough miracles.
Well, there was 2 things that, kind of motivated me or made me curious about all this. One was, now for about 20 years, I've been assisting in the exorcism ministry. I've been at probably coming up on 2,000 exorcisms, somewhere around there. I don't keep track. Formal ones.
It's just crazy to think of that. I have to tell you, 2,000 exorcisms. Yeah. I mean, I can't even watch one on the big screen at the movies. I don't know how you do it, but go ahead.
And so I've seen demonic counterfeits. I've seen weird stuff happen, stuff fly around that nobody's touched, objects materializing, and, right there, like for instance, somebody coughing up nails, but spitting nails literally for like 2 hours. It's not like they were cheeked and they held a couple in their mouth. Things disappearing, just all kinds of things. Person raised in the States with a high school education speaking, ancient languages, and somebody being present who could, verify that knew those languages, all kinds of strange things. And so I said, okay, the fallen angels can do these unusual things, and they're unusual. They're not miracles, because a miracle is something God does. And there's 3 types of miracles, and we could get into that. Thomas Aquinas breaks it down. So I was seeing these strange things, and I said, okay, that's unusual. The whole exorcism thing is unusual, the fact that this creature's here. But that led me to the question of, like, okay, well, how do we separate fakes from the bad guys that are manipulating? Because here's the thing, Deb. I also knew from talking with the victims, the possessed people, that they had been lured into this relationship with the demonic sometimes by the antics that the demons would do, the show that they would put on, that they would do things and claim that they were God, or claim that they were, some good thing that was doing a favor for them. Now, they can't do true miracles. They can't heal. They can't make something out of nothing, because they can't create. Only the Creator can create. But what they can do is a sham. So they can, if a possessed person, they could cause a severe pain in their body or cause the body to swell and be in distress. and then say, oh, I'll heal you, and then just remove the affliction that they've given, which gives the illusion that they've healed you of a problem, right? But it's a lie. So they can't actually heal. They can just do a sham of things.
And then fix it so that it makes you feel like they have more authority than they do.
Yeah, they're not fixing it. They're just, it's kind of like if I stick a thorn in your foot and you're limping around and then I pull the thorn out, have I healed your foot? No. I've just removed the thorn that I put in your foot.
Got it. Okay.
That's all they can do. So anyway, there was that made me curious. Like, how do we separate, the true things from God versus these creatures? And then the other thing that I was doing is, reading the Bible and seeing like, okay, miracles are really important. Jesus did over 30 that are recorded, big public miracles, and there's references to many others that aren't recorded in detail. So he was doing miracles for a reason. They were signs for the people to know he was divine. So it's like, okay, God uses these, and they're done for the purpose of evangelizing and informing people, right? Letting them know what's legit. He's legit, he's divine because only God can forgive sins, which he did. Only God can cast out demons from people, which he did without invoking the name of God. He just said go, and that's what caused people's jaws to drop. Now, of course, he delegated the power to forgive sins to the apostles, so that changed when he delegated and gave that power. But up until that moment, only God could forgive sins. It's still God doing it, but he's basically letting the church say the words. All these issues, and then two other smaller things, Deb, and I know I'm talking a lot. One was I studied a little bit and knew some professional magicians and the internet and people's false claims of having visions and miracles that people buy without scrutiny.
Okay. Well, let's hold it there because we also have some comments coming in from the chats, which are very interesting. I want to address those as well about counterfeit and authentic miracles. We're talking about Adam's book today and other aspects of miracles. But let's get it back to Keith. He's got some important announcements for us.
All righty. Thank you so much, Debbie and Adam. And if maybe you've experienced a miracle, we'd like to hear it. If you have a story to share, just send an email to morningjoy@grnonline.com. Or if you're on any of the live chats from any of the social media platforms, throw it in the chat as well. We would like to hear from you. Now, if you're wondering, well, which one should I go to and where should I search and how should I search? How should I search? Just search the Morning Joy Radio or GRN Online, and you'll certainly find us. So make sure to do so and like, follow, and subscribe. That's a very important part. But hey, coming up next, we're going to take a quick little break. And on the other side, we're going to check in to see your thoughts on miracles. Okay? We're speaking with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai here on The Next Right Thing. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and on the final segment of The Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai, helping us understand miracles just a bit better and how to discern whether they're authentic and not. Without further ado, Debbie, take it away.
Well said, Keith. I was thinking the same thing, how to really discern whether this is what we're looking at is for real, Adam, based on what you shared about what prompted you, what motivated you to write this book. But I want to share something with you, Adam, and maybe you could talk about this a little bit because I think we're in this period of time where we really have to take a look at this. Nicole Marie on YouTube, thank you so much, Nicole, for sending this in. She said, with AI, we need to be more discerning now. People see things online and believe it. It's so true, Adam. Just because they're seeing it pop up online and you see one or two comments that somehow encourage or confirm it, everybody just accepts it. You see this quite frequently on Facebook. People will pay, and I have even done it from a legitimate source. I got a post from a legitimate source, and I went, okay, this must be legit, and I forwarded it. It was one of our listeners said to me, "Hey Debbie, that was fake news," and I'm like, wow, I didn't even take a second. I was in a hurry. I shouldn't have done that. I should have researched it. But Adam, we're in this. I mean, obviously the demons they're opportunists. They're going to use this. They're going to leverage it to make sure that we don't even know what is true, what's not true. They're going to even get us somehow to even doubt what the church is saying is true. What do you say to all that?
Well, you're touching on something really important, and that is learning how to think. So often, in terms of academically, we often don't really learn how to think, meaning like think rationally and systematically, and kind of break things down well, often unless we go to grad school. Basically, undergrad, we kind of learn a bunch of facts and vocabulary, and we might learn some skills. And typically, it's in graduate school that you start learning how to think scientifically and really break things down and be critical in a very kind of smart sense. Not just being critical and dismissive, but saying like, okay, does that make sense? And let me follow that. And okay, this could also be this, and having hypotheses and whatnot. We don't often apply our reason when something's on a screen. And it's something built into us, something built into the way we're wired. We tend to shut off our critical mind when something's on a screen. So for instance, things that are in the movies, I have seen this so many times over the years, that if it was on a big screen, it's just automatically true. And I don't know why.
Just because it's bigger?
Because it's on a screen. And now that it's on the phone, if it's on the phone, it's true. If it's on a TV, it's true. But certainly if it's on a big screen. So things, right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me stop you right there for a second, because I love going to the movies. Okay. And there's a big difference of watching a movie on your little phone, or watching it on a tablet, or watching it on a TV, and then watching it on the big screen. When you have that overwhelming, and it stimulates all the senses, you're right. You feel the sound of the surround sound in that theater, and the lights and the darkness, and then you're looking at this big bright screen. It does have an impact on the brain. I mean, when you walk out of there, especially those that are very visual, like myself, impressionable. I mean, you walk out of there and you have the images implanted in your brain.
Yeah, and this is partly why I think, this is just my opinion, this is partly why we treat movie stars like little gods.
Gotcha.
Like they're suddenly competent in every area, and their opinion on politics or agriculture or anything else obviously carries weight, even though these are actors. Like, their trade is acting. They haven't necessarily studied any of these things, but we suddenly give them so much authority because they've been on a big screen. It's just the way our brains are wired.
Interesting. Well, see, then you get me into a whole nother direction. That's why I'm kind of against all of these horror films that are coming out that are around exorcisms and things like that, because they are on the big screen. I mean, they're
Right.
going to have an impact.
So what I was getting at a few sentences ago, innumerably over the years, I have had people call in, and these are people that are like in distress, terrified. It's very important to them, and they're not just an armchair musing about something and having a fun conversation. Like, to them, it's almost a life or death situation. And they say, well, I know this is the way it works because it was in that movie. And they're saying, so I tried it and nothing happened. And somehow people assume, and this is getting back to AI, what the comment was, some people make this leap without thinking critically, that if it's on a screen, well, that must be the way it works. If it's in a movie, that's the way it works. Like, why would Hollywood deceive me? They must be telling me the truth. And again, Hollywood writers are writers. Their trade is writing. They do research. They're not necessarily, believing in any objective truth. They're not trying to be, properly Christian. They write a movie about exorcists, and the goal is to sell tickets. it's not to give us a good education on how these things work. And so anyway, AI is going to be a bigger challenge, obviously, in innumerable ways in our lives, but one of them is going to be this illusion of truth. And, you know, and I know we're getting far afield here, and it's a lot to take in the morning, but the postmodern position philosophically is essentially that there is no objective truth, and everybody's subjective truth, your truth is your truth, and I should never question that or intrude on that. You know, we all have our own truth. If you say the sky's purple, for you it's purple, that's completely valid, even though we can measure it with the spectrometer and tell you the wavelength of the light and say it's blue. Well, it's purple for you, and that's reality. And this idea that there's no objective truth, it is a reaction against, to some extent, the objective truth of God, and the idea that there is a yardstick, there is a creator, there is a standard, and this idea that I can just create the universe based on my imagination and what I want to believe it is, that combined with AI is going to make the next 20 years extra challenging.
Wow. Another thing to look forward to, right? I mean, this is just incredible. More things we got to worry about. But, you referenced St. Thomas Aquinas, and coming up next is Thinking Out Loud with this so brilliant Dave Palmer about St. Thomas Aquinas. I'm curious what he has to say about miracles as well. But I will tell you, Adam, I think that we live in a world, this is just my personal opinion being in ministry, we live in a world that we are desperate to experience miracles. We want to hold on to it because, we're in the Jubilee year of hope, right? What are we hoping for? We're hoping for so many things. We're hoping for the end of the story being good. Everything's going to be wonderful. We're looking towards this wonderful existence for all of eternity. And so many things. And along the way, miracles keep us going. They allow us to build confidence in God. They just restore hope. They build hope. They encourage people to keep going and never give up. Well, if we have to really work hard to figure out if it's authentic or not, that's going to be a problem. And that's why I really would stress for folks to stay tuned in. I really mean this. Stay tuned into Catholic media, because I think we do a really good job at trying to get the truth out there so that everybody can journey on the same path and have the clarity to make good decisions for their own spiritual life. What do you say to that, real quickly?
Oh, absolutely. And yeah. So, Deb, I know we're out of time, but yes, objective truth and verifying things, and that's what the church figured out needed to be done, and they set standards for it. And Thomas Aquinas helped us philosophically with that. But yeah, the church is about verification and about objective truth.
Amen to that. Have a beautiful day, Adam. Can't wait to hear what Dave Palmer has to say about St. Thomas Aquinas. But now back to Keith for some more announcements from Morning Joy.
All right. Thanks again, Debbie and Adam. And if you really enjoyed what Debbie and Adam were talking about, miracles and all of that, it's very interesting stuff. I highly recommend checking out the Spirit World, right? So they kind of dive deep into some of these subjects about the spiritual world, right? Hence the Spirit World title. And actually, if you missed this last Saturday's episode, they opened the phone lines. And really, they were able to honor dads, grandfathers, godfathers, and spiritual fathers in listeners' lives. Very powerful stories, and really some touching tributes. And most important of all, it was just kind of a reminder of what makes fatherhood a true vocation. Just search The Spirit World in the Spirit World podcast, and you should find it. But hey, coming up next, don't go anywhere. We're about to think out loud with Dave Palmer. Coming up next.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.